Hey everyone, it's Wolf614 back at it again with another video on the channel. This is the season and finale of our Rapid State CFB 26 Dynasty. Our Team Builder Dynasty is coming to an end after this video. This is our 7th season. We're coming off of back-to-back national championship runs. And yeah, we got this one to go, and if you're seeing this on the day that it releases, on July 2nd, College Football 27 comes out tonight at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for myself, so I will be streaming that tonight at some point in time. So if you do want to see that, go head over to my Twitch. It's the top link in the description, and hit me up with a follow so you get that notification when I go live. But in the background here, you can see we're up to a 4-star team, 89 overall, an 89 offense, and a 91 defense. We got a really good squad for this final year. We got one more push at a national title before we move on to the new game. So yeah, let's hop right on into it. We aren't going to waste any time. If you do enjoy this type of content and are looking forward to seeing it more in College Football 27 along with other videos on the channel, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. And let's get on into our first game of the year, which I believe is against Florida.
Back-to-back national champs.
We hop right on into game number 1 versus Florida. Here you can see the man of the hour, senior quarterback Bryce Wing. He sat behind Leo Onione for a year and came out last year as a really good player. However, on our first possession, we would give the ball away on a 4th down, which would lead to a quick Florida turnaround for them to take an early 3-0 lead. However, returning back, Marco Beaver right away would show that he's still got plenty left in the tank. We would drive right down the field and then score on a drag route to Mr. Del Kent, the tight end, giving us the 7-3 lead for the moment. Following drive there, end of the first quarter, big pass to Florida. A missed tackle by us would put them well within scoring position. Now 3rd and 6 here. You can see he's looking over the middle and he finds a man. That's a score. But we would end up getting the ball right back in the second quarter, driving right down the field, a little out route there, just sneaking it into Sexton to make it 14-10. And there we got 2nd and 10 right before the 2-minute warning. A big sack would lead to a turnover on down, and then on 4th and goal for us, Wing rolling out. He throws. He's got Kent once again. It's a 21-10 lead. Florida would have a shot at a field goal here right at the end of the half. That would be up and good to keep it a 1-possession game. But once again, we would get the ball and start working our way down the field. A great throw there by Wing to Chun, and that would put us in a spot for field goal to take us, and then a big play here.
No, it hit him in the helmet because he didn't know the ball was going.
Fair enough.
I just got running, nigger!
I think that one looked a little Mahomey. Touchdown, Rapid State.
Big touchdown there. As I said, looked a little Mahomey there. Wing would do what he needs to do in a 38-20 victory. First game of the year. 300 passing yards on the dot for him as we move to game number 2. Home versus Texas Tech. We would be able to touch the ball first. And on this first drive, however, on a 3rd and 10, we would be extending the play. Wing doing what he does best, using his mobility and agility, launching it down the field for a huge conversion. And this drive would end up leading to this play here, which would get Kent in the end zone once again. Texas Tech, however, would have a long sustained drive that put them back in this game at 7-3. On a 4th and goal here, we would find Mr. Del Kent once again. However, he would drop it incomplete on 2nd and 11, though. Good blitz off the left side, forcing a tackle for loss and a safety. Now 9-3 underneath now to Chun. Chun with a big spin move down to the 1. And on 1st and goal, waiting for some routes to develop, Max Allen would put it in the end zone for him, for his score. A ball here that would be tipped up in the air and intercepted. On the return, Texas Tech would get themselves inside our half of the field. And on 2nd and 14, however, a big sack and a fumble would end their drive prematurely. as we're now up 16-3. Still underneath once again to Chun this time. That's another score. And at this point, we're just starting to run away with it. A deep ball here to Sexton. He breaks the tackle, puts it in the end zone. And this game was all but over from there. 38-10 victory at home versus ranked Texas Tech. To start the year, a strong 2-0, 308 passing yards, and 5 touchdowns for Wing with that one tipped pass interception. As we move on to game number 3 now. Down in Ann Arbor from where we are in Grand Rapids. The first time we've ever played Michigan at home in 7 seasons of playing football in Michigan. So that'll definitely be changing to College Football 27, as we'll have to play them a lot more often than we did before. However, on their first drive, it'd be a sack, a strip sack, and a fumble, and we would have the ball in a very advantageous field position here on 3rd and goal. Underneath ball to, I believe, Sexton, and that would be a touchdown to start. Once again, a big rollout pass, finding a man way down the field, and now we were starting to operate well as Marco Beaver up the middle. He would score a touchdown as we would try to begin to stretch our legs in this game. However, Michigan on a 2nd and 12, their quarterback would roll, launch down the field. The safety would make a gamble play on it, but wouldn't be able to come up with the ball. However, on 4th and inches on this, later in the drive, they go for it. Immediately gets tackled in the backfield to not convert, and now Wing looking deep over the middle. He's got Chun with a lot of room, a big pass there, which would lead off into a field goal attempt. This would be up and good, just sneaking inside the right upright. Michigan down 17-0. However, a big play there on an RPO slant. The safeties would not be ready for it, and they'd make it 17-7. 30 seconds left now in the half. Underneath route was open, but we go over the middle, and it's a big snag there to put us well within the red zone and in scoring position now. On the slant, it would be caught. Sexton barreling his way into the end zone to make it 24-7, and now we're starting to really stretch our legs as we go to Kent underneath, make it 31, now 31-13. Press coverage on the outside versus Sexton. That ain't going to work. Wing with a dime down the field. The safety couldn't get there in time, and it would be another big score as we continued to pile it on. Now 38-20, another underneath route, this time to Kent. Kent would go over the top for the hurdle score. 48-10 the final here as we stun the crowd in Ann Arbor. 359 and 5 scores for Wing. Once again, a masterclass from the quarterback position as we move on to our next game here, back at home, still in conference play now, versus an 86 overall Nebraska team that gave us a little bit of problems last year in the first half, and they would once again picking up a scoop and score on a poorly ran speed option. However, we would get the ball right back and be able to walk it down the field. Kent would be in once again, the drag route god that this man was. Converted wide receivers to tight end were great. I'm curious to see if they'll be just as good in 27. A bad throw here, however, redlined, trying to get the ball to Sexton, would be intercepted. This would lead to a Nebraska field goal attempt here right at the start of the second quarter. That ball is up, and that ball is good. So we're down 10-7 now, moving on to our next drive. Quickly finding Allen, and Allen's going to rumble his way down to the 1-yard line. We would then give the ball up the middle, and that would give us the lead 14-10. Now coming in towards the 2-minute warning, another bad pass into tight coverage, intercepted by the linebacker there for Nebraska, and that sets them up in good field position once again as their quarterback takes off. Dual threat quarterbacks are our nemesis, and he would race his way in for the score. It's 17-14 now. However, they obviously did not watch the tape from the Michigan game. Sexton gets the catch on press coverage from Wing, and we put ourselves back in the lead. However, this game just keeps going on and on. Another deep pass, but this time a hit stick tackle forces the fumble, and we get the ball back in good position as Kent once again races to the end zone. Underneath routes our king, and that's another score, putting us up 28-17 with 20 seconds to go in the half. They would go on a deep pass, and for some reason, instead of trying to give us a swat, the game's like, yes, we'll dive at it, and that would put it 28-24. Out of the third quarter, we would get one score in on a very long drive, and then Wing would start to try and do his thing again, launching down the field. It would be caught by the running back, a great catch over top of the safety. Now on third and goal, underneath, we would find, I believe that was Chun for the score, now 42-31. Once again, rolling out, finding another man in a tight window. It's a 56-point outburst, even with multiple turnovers, as we would end up beating Nebraska pretty comfortably in the end, even with some mild issues in the turnover game. Moving on now, we got another home game, this time against a chippy underdog Rutgers team. We would start this game off smooth with an early score. However, Rutgers would not be dissuaded. A QB draw, great run, like I said. Mobile quarterbacks are a dagger for us, and they would score once again on a good drive, making it 14-7 quickly, forcing him off his spot once again. However, he wouldn't care. He'd pick up another huge gain, this time into the red zone right before halftime. Now they're looking. He's going over the middle, an absolute seed in between the cover two zone there, and we're down 21-7 in the third quarter. That becomes 21-14, now 27-15. As we roll, find a man over the middle, too much soft coverage. It's Chun, a huge play down the field. Now at the 2-minute warning, we're trying to keep ourselves alive in this one. Rolling, Wing has a man, dime to the corner of the end zone. And now it's 27-22 on a 3rd and 11. They would try the wide receiver screen. It would not work. We would get the ball back in an advantageous position. Wing extending, looking way downfield. It's caught this time by Kent, and then up the middle. It would be a score to put us in the lead here. 4 seconds left to go. 28-27. They would have one shot at it. The quarterback absolutely could get it there. Launches it downfield. However, it would be intercepted in the back of the end zone. A huge win. What could have been a very season-altering sort of game if we had lost. We score 13 in the fourth quarter to escape with a win. Another 290 yards and 3 scores, this time 82% completion percentage for Wing as we head on the road to Madison, Wisconsin. Always a tough place to play anytime, no matter how good or bad the Badgers are. Here you can see on their first drive, 2nd and inches, they go deep down the field. It is caught, an absolute barn burner of a route on the outside. However, we would have no issues getting right down the field and scoring to tie this game back up. End of the first quarter here. You can see he's dropping back, got a good pocket, sends it down the field, and it is caught in the corner of the end zone. Bad positioning by the secondary once again. However, you cannot guard Richie Sexton. A big spin move, and he would be well inside Wisconsin territory into the red zone now. Now on 3rd and 10, going deep. However, it's a bad throw. Chun was trying to come back to the ball. It would not work. A big return for Wisconsin here out to their own 40. And now they had the momentum. 3rd and 5 now. You can see we send a huge blitz with the secondary involved. We get the stop and then start working our way down the field as Marco Beaver up the middle, a big stiff arm, punching in a score, making it 14-14 just before halftime here. And then an interception on an errant throw, trying to find the slant route. It would not work. And we would have the ball in a great spot, and we would capitalize pretty much right away out of halftime. You can see press coverage once again. Obviously, no Big Ten team watches any film. They just keep pressing Sexton. He keeps beating them. That's another score. Now 28-14, now 31-14 late into the third quarter as we continue to just pummel it on now. We've broken the Badgers at this point. A pass to Allen, the backup tight end. He gets into the end zone. 38-20 now. Another run up the middle to Beaver. And this game was all but over. 52-20. Another offensive explosion for Rapid State as we move on to our toughest test yet. A couple seasons ago, we played in our first Big Ten season, I believe, season 5, we played on the road versus Oregon, and we got absolutely throttled by the Ducks. However, since then, we'd beaten them once in a Big Ten championship game and hadn't faced them again. So now we are trying to do our justice and trying to get them back out in Autzen.
Wing's got
Here you
space.
see Wing with way too much room to operate after they scored a field goal on their first drive. And now, underneath, we would find a man, however, it would go right through Chun's hands and intercepted by the safety. They wouldn't do much with it, though. And here, 3 minutes to go in the second quarter, a deep field goal up and just barely sneaks it over the bar to make it 3-3. We'd get the ball back. The defense doing much better this time as we get the ball to Chun. Chun would cut it up the field, and that would be a score to give us the lead 10-3. You can see off of a bad kickoff return here, they're in a bad spot, and a horrible awareness run there by the quarterback puts them in bad spot. A diving catch now from Sexton puts us up 19-3 deep into the third quarter. Another one puts us up 22-3, and then that would basically be it. They would score some garbage time stuff, but really just not have the clock on their side. A 22-17 victory on the road versus Oregon would be all she wrote for this one. Chun, the man of the match, 6 catches for 101 yards and a score. This Illinois game, we're gonna go by very quickly. Really not too much going on in this one. We would come out on our first drive firing a score underneath. Later in the game, 17-7 in the third quarter. Once again, press coverage not gonna work. It's caught by Chun, and we would comfortably handle our business there. 27-14. Once again, the score looking a lot closer than it actually was. This game, however, versus Washington at home, this was an ugly one. We were down 14-0 early in the game. We made it 14-7, then 14-10, and then 14-17 there in the third quarter. And by the fourth quarter, we were able to put us up 2 scores and take a win from behind there, 24-14, to keep the season perfect. Now out on the road versus the USC Trojans. This would be another tough matchup. Anytime you play USC, they're going to give you a tough game. However, on our first drive, we wouldn't struggle at all as Beaver would walk right down the field. They would be responding right away, though. However, we would get a ball into Kent. Kent would break a tackle, use that wide receiver speed all the way down the field to break the pylon and break the plane for the score. Now 14-7, a really bad time to run zone for them as the linebackers collide. Now 21-14 right before halftime. Up the middle, Marco Beaver would score 28-21. They're trying to keep with us. They won't be able to. It's another bomb to Kent. Now 35-27, trying to put this game away. Wing rolls, throws, and it is tipped and picked off. A horrible position for that to happen. They would come down and score and give us a chance, though, with 30 seconds left. Underneath here to Kent, a bad run in by the corner to try and take him out. The angle was not good. Now 2nd and 1, Beaver up the middle, and that would put us in a perfect position to kick a game-winning field goal and send USC, even though they were home, send them home packing, 38-35, another strong victory there. We would then be on the road facing Indiana once again. I believe we played them once before in our first season in the conference. This game, a night game, we got our nice road uniforms on as we would come out swinging first, a big strike there to Sexton, and then they would come down and score. However, we would keep the pressure going on a rollout. Against the grain, we would find a man, make it 14-7, and now the 0-1 trap dive right up the middle. This is Beaver's bread and butter, and he is going to rumble his way in for a score. Now 21-10 in the third quarter. Another deep out route. Bang! Kent's got it. Down in the red zone, and then breaks multiple tackles as he would race his way in for the score. A 42-10 thumping of Indiana. Really no contest as we head into our final ever game versus Central Michigan. We've never lost to them in this Dynasty series, and we were looking to keep it that way today. A big bomb of a pass to Kent there as we would just start to absolutely throttle the Chippewas in Mount Pleasant. Another good cornerback route there That time from Chun, now 24 zip. We go deep once again, finding Sexton and Press once again. It's a score again, 45-0 now in the fourth quarter. Kent wants more. He's going to get it. And then finally, our last real play, we find Sexton on a great seam beater route up the hashes of the field. He would race his way away for a 59-0 game here. Absolute dominance from Rapid State in the final time that we would play Central Michigan. We play them more this upcoming college football 27 as we'll be back in the MAC. However, the Big Ten title game, you saw it there, would be against Ohio State. It'd be 3 versus 4. The winner of that would absolutely guarantee themselves a bye. As you look at some of the stats coming in, 3,800 yards, 909 rushing yards, and 14 scores for Beaver. More scores than he had the previous year, and 2 players, Chun and Kent, with almost over 1,000 yards. A really great year, along with Sexton having almost 900 defensively. Not the craziest year. We've had guys with more sacks. Sophia To'oto'o with a lot, and 3 interceptions for Keith Tyrone. We move on to the Ohio State game. We'd come out first, however, not be able to punch it in the end zone. So we take a 3-0 lead and then try to work into another score. We got a screen pass here on 1st and goal underneath to Beaver. Smart to get him in space. Anytime he can get downhill, it's a good thing. 10-7 here right before the end of the half, looking to try and extend the play. Throws on the run. It's intercepted, though, and we would not be able to get any points. They would end up coming out of the half with a vengeance, scoring quickly twice, and then another bad interception, back-breaking in the fourth quarter, down 28-10 now. We would have to try and come from behind to salvage a Big Ten championship. We would get a good ball to Kent. He would get in the end zone. Now 28-17. We'd go underneath this time, and we would find another score, make it 28-23. We would have to get this onside kick if we wanted a chance. It would be low, and it would be unfortunately recovered. So we lose the Big Ten title game in our last ever season. However, we do have one from the season prior, and we would still be slotted in at number 6 with a home playoff game against Virginia Tech. Moving on into that, we got the full Blues out for this one, and once again, Sexton, back of the end zone, bang. It's a quick score. However, bad tackling would cause a Virginia Tech touchdown. So now this game starting to get a little back and forth, as we would find on an out route for a score there. And then right at the end of the half, a long 55-yarder would be absolutely buried to put us up 17-7. Deep now into the game, into the fourth quarter, a bad interception would be thrown, which would cause Virginia Tech to score. They'd be in the same spot we were a week before, and we would do what Ohio State did to us, recover the onside kick, and get the win in this game, moving us on to a grudge match versus Heath and Hawaii State. This game would be a really strange one, all things considered. Heath was basically kind of on the downturn of this dynasty, basically kind of bored of it to an extent, but he would find a man over the middle early on a big 4th down, and he would come out trying to score, running off with the quarterback, hurdle, and fumble, picked up by one of our linebackers. Not a lot of speed, but you can see he's just diving, doing this thing, whatever. And we would end up taking advantage of this being basically the last game Heath would ever play with Hawaii State in this dynasty mode, to score the touchdown and then really start to pile it on. Now 14-0 in the first quarter here. He would roll, throw deep. It would be caught. And then big pitch and grabbed by one of our cornerbacks. He would be doing an emote, and we would get the ball back. You can see here now, 2 seconds left in the first quarter. Underneath to Allen, he would hurdle his way into the end zone. You can see we skip all the way to the 4th. It was never close, 43-6. Now with 1 play left, underneath route, got him. It would be a absolute throttling here in the Sugar Bowl, 49-6. We really didn't have to do all too much to stop him. Best game for Kent, touchdown-wise, as he would break a record there, and then would break once again the career receiving touchdowns record, which is a pretty neat thing for him to have. As we move on to the Verbo Fiesta Bowl versus Duke, a rematch of a playoff game previously that was an absolute barn burner of a game underneath the first drive for a touchdown on a good crossing route over the field, another underneath route, just beating up on Duke. 14-7 now in the second quarter. We give up the middle. Marco Beaver doing what he does best, finding gaps in the space. Now in the third quarter, we would have a field goal opportunity, which would put us up 24-7, now 24-10. Under a minute left, another deep bomb to Richie Sexton, and that's another score for us, put us up 31-10. Now just before the 2-minute warning, Beaver, great vision, finding the hole. And that would basically be all we wrote for this one. 38-17, absolutely killed the Blue Devils as we head into our final ever game versus Georgia. This, of course, being our final ever game of College Football 26 on this channel. If you did make it this far in the video, I really do appreciate it. I know this isn't the outro, but I do appreciate it. I'm going to have a ton of videos just like this, doing a huge rebuild of Rapid State into College Football 27 with the new NIL and all that. So I really appreciate all of the support that this video and these series get, along with all the other series on my channel. So I do appreciate it. And let's hop on in to this last ever game as we try to go for a three-peat versus a former powerhouse in Georgia. We hop on in to our first drive of the game, 1st and 10, Wing rolling out. He's got too much room and too much speed. He powers his way into the end zone for the first score of the game. Georgia, however, would come out and try to start doing some stuff. However, it would be a great stop on a swing route from the running back, and we would start being able to let the offense flex its muscle as we would work our way down the field once again, find Marco Beaver on a stretch, cutting it up the middle, doing what he does best for the score. Now 14-0. Georgia would be responding there. A big broken tackle would put them in the end zone, make it 14-7. 2.5 minutes left in the quarter. A big pass over the middle. It is caught. A huge catch there. And now we would go underneath, find our man in Kent for the score. 21-7 now, as we would try to keep pulling away. Another great post route to the outside from Kent there. Right before the end of the half, we would be rolling, looking, and throwing. However, it'd be picked off, and it would go all the way back. A huge momentum swing for Georgia right before half, trying to win this final game. Here in the third quarter, 2 minutes left, we would have a shot at going up by 2 scores, and we would make it. Now Georgia would score, and we would come back and once again waste some clock, get another field goal, and we'd be looking for a stop on their final ever drive, and we would get the stop here, knocking the ball away and being able to start trying to salt the clock, going underneath first and foremost to Chun. Never a bad idea. He cuts it up to make sure he stays in bounds, starts using those timeouts. 2nd and 5, Beaver up the middle on the dive. An absolute animal. Love this running back. Hope we find someone as good as him in the next game. Now we would go up the middle once again, and we would get tackled down just before it to finish off this one.
I want to come out in QB to end this entire dynasty with one knee. It's over. 3-peat for Rapid State. Rico Suave de la Torre has turned Rapid State from an expansion back team to one of, if not the greatest dynasties in college football history. 3 in a row for the little team out of Grand Rapids. Del Kent and Rico Suave de la Torre, they're true heroes of this final year. Bryce Wing had a great game. They have done it. They have done the impossible and won 3 in a row.
You can see now on this next screen the confirmation. 3 straight national championships. Unbelievable here.
For the team for career. Bryce Wing actually had it. Hoshstein still had the career receiving yards. Receptions would have been broken eventually. Passing touchdowns, Wing again. Beaver for rushing touchdowns. Sacks, Jeff Brady Ford. And receiving touchdowns, Del Kent. Out for game. For this team, passing yards, Leone with 558. 350 rushing yards in 1 year. Leone has this. He tied with Bryce Wing. Beaver had the most rushing. Sacks was Brady Bredslow. Heck yeah. And then a season, all of us, holy. Wing. Marco Beaver, Kent for both receiving yards and receptions, passing touchdowns, Wing this year. Beaver rushing last year, receiving touchdowns this year. I'm just looking at my records and everything to basically close this out.
See all the trophies there that we picked up over the course of this dynasty.
But that is it.
Like I said, that was it. We were able to three-peat, really turn Rapid State into one of the best dynasties, I would say, in college football history. And yeah, that's going to be it. Like I said at the start of this video, if you do enjoy, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. There's going to be new videos on the new college football game coming out as soon as tomorrow. There's going to be a review on this channel. So if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, until next time, everybody, take it easy.